Under 1,000 stars, the galaxy basked in the illusion of peace. For 4 millennia, the Galactic Accord had stood, a sprawling pact of treaties, diplomacy, and mutual deterrence. Empires, coalitions, and species that once tore each other apart had learned to coexist. Humanity, one of the younger entrants to this union, had surprised many by not only adhering to the peace but enhancing it. While other species flexed their technological might or wielded political manipulation, humans brought stability through cooperation, adaptability, and a relentless avoidance of war. They traded more fairly than others, navigated cultural lines with uncommon precision, and sent artists, scientists, and philosophers to the farthest edges of known space. Where others built fortresses, humans built libraries. Where others issued ultimatums, humans sent negotiators. They had military fleets, of course, but they were always distant, always quiet. No one feared the human army because no one ever saw it. But not everyone admired this restraint. Within the Galactic Empire, a growing faction regarded humanity as a cultural virus, one spreading tolerance, independence, and moral relativism into a rigid order that valued obedience above all. Their leaders believed peace was stagnation. Order, to them, meant control, and control could not exist alongside uncontrolled kindness. The more humanity's example spread, the harder it became to enforce the old hierarchies. The breaking point came quietly. On the diplomatic moon Aurelia, 500 women, scientists, diplomats, and peace envoys, gathered to attend a summit aimed at easing mounting border tensions. They carried no weapons, wore no armor, and held no titles of military command. Their presence was symbolic, a gesture of sincerity to an empire that had long accused humanity of duplicity. The empire responded not with words, but with fire. The attack was swift, methodical, and televised. Empire ships exited slipspace above Aurelia and began a pattern of surgical bombardment. The targeting data, later leaked, showed precision strikes on conference chambers, shuttle bays, and designated shelters. No male soldiers, no armed resistance. Only women, murdered in broad daylight, their screams drowned by plasma fire. The final death toll was exact: 500. Not one survivor. It wasn't a rogue action. The Empire released a statement claiming Aurelia had been a covert intelligence hub. They called the women combatants in disguise, and said the action was necessary for the preservation of galactic stability. No evidence was offered. None was needed. It was never about justification. It was about sending a message. The footage spread across systems like wildfire. Most of the galaxy reeled in horror. Some races condemned it immediately. Others waited, unsure of what Earth would do. But Earth did nothing. No outrage. No response. No mobilization. Just silence. 7 days passed. In those days, ambassadors were recalled. Trade networks linked to human colonies went dark. Scientific missions vanished from frontier space. Even pirate factions that often operated on the edge of human sectors reported complete disappearance of patrol activity. No distress beacons. No transmissions. The humans had vanished from the galactic stage without a single shot fired. Then came the withdrawal. Earth officially exited the Galactic Accord without ceremony. Every consulate, every ambassadorial envoy, every diplomatic channel was severed. The Council received no explanation. Human-aligned planets and colonies sealed themselves behind communication firewalls. Orbital gates shut. Civilian traffic ceased. For the first time in 4,000 years, Earth became completely, deliberately unreachable. And the galaxy began to panic. Whispers spread like infections. Had humanity been broken? Were they retreating to grieve? Or were they preparing something worse? There were no broadcasts, but scattered reports began to leak. Entire human armadas had gone off-grid, rerouting through untraceable relays. Ancient weapons platforms long mothballed lit up for calibration. Former military strategists, now teachers and historians, were recalled by encrypted command orders. Orbital forges that had been silent for centuries now ran without pause. By day 10, planetary observatories across 3 sectors recorded the same anomaly: energy signatures from massive gravitational lensing. Something enormous had passed through deep space. It didn't match known propulsion models. It left no radiation trail. But wherever it went, systems began to lose connection. Not from attack, just absence. Communications blackouts. Entire Empire listening posts offline. Scout teams that went to investigate never reported back. And then came the first confirmed message from Earth. It wasn't addressed to the Empire. It wasn't even directed at the Council. It was intercepted on an encrypted relay running through a derelict trade route, an old, unused bandwidth reserved for wartime emergencies. The message was short. A single sentence. They ended peace. Now we end tolerance. No names. No demands. Just those words. Cold. Final. Terrifying in their simplicity. The message was verified as authentically human, though the signature on the encryption was tied to a file that hadn't been accessed in over 800 years, a legacy command protocol used only during pre-Accord war simulations. Galactic leaders began to grasp the horror of what had happened. Humanity had not screamed. It had not threatened. It had vanished to prepare. In the following days, elite reconnaissance units of the Empire encountered strange silence around their supply depots. Automated facilities, defense turrets, logistics hubs, every one of them rendered useless without visible damage. Whole data archives had been scrubbed. Factory droids were found looped in endless restart sequences. It was as if someone had rewritten their firmware in real time and locked out physical access. An Empire cruiser found orbit over one of their own moons and transmitted a distress signal. The signal abruptly stopped mid-broadcast. When scouts arrived, the cruiser was still intact. Systems were powered down. No bodies. No blood. Every living soul aboard gone. Internal logs showed a final entry from the captain. He described multiple proximity alerts but no visuals. Movement in the walls. Anomalous pressure changes. Light patterns that didn't match any known infiltration method. He ended the log with, "They're not here to kill us. They're here to erase us." The Empire responded by doubling military presence near human space. Nothing came. Weeks passed. Trade between Empire-friendly systems slowed. Worlds that once relied on human technology couldn't reboot terraforming cycles. Medical satellites, once co-maintained by human crews, began to fail. Attempts to repair or replace them were met with mysterious system-wide malfunctions. Then came the blackout event. One by one, the Empire's star systems experienced full-scale infrastructure failure: communication, navigation, orbital traffic, economic databases, all rendered non-functional. No human ships were detected. No warnings issued. Worlds simply fell into administrative silence. In desperation, the Empire launched counter-AI fleets to trace the source. Every fleet vanished. No wreckage. No signal drift. Nothing. Orders were rerouted back to their origin. Fleet directives sent ships to wrong sectors, or into deep space with corrupted coordinate. Warships collided with moons, stations drifted without guidance, and admirals were cut off from their own squadrons. Panic spread through the Empire's core. Messages were sent to the Galactic Council demanding intervention. Counselors replied with diplomatic regret and claimed neutral status. No species offered support. No faction dared offer shelter. And then came the first human message in nearly a month. For every voice silenced on Aurelia, we will erase an Empire's breath. It wasn't broadcast. It appeared as a fail-safe message embedded in the Empire's own command logs, triggered by their attempt to restore a single capital system's navigation grid. The message wasn't boastful. It was a warning delivered too late. Galactic trade routes collapsed next. Hyperlanes were severed not by weapons, but by software corruption in jump gate calibration cores. Ships that entered reappeared thousands of light-years off course, or didn't reappear at all. Smugglers and pirates vanished from outer systems. Salvage crews that tried to scavenge abandoned Empire tech returned with radiation burns and scrambled neural patterns. Some didn't return at all. The Empire's economy froze. Their reserves were unreachable. Banking AI turned hostile or locked itself down. Farmers couldn't access soil recalibration network. Even the food began to rot algorithmically. The war was not being fought in fire, but in code, silence, and the dismantling of confidence. Still, no planet was glassed. No cities bombed. No children harmed. The strikes were mechanical and moral, brutal and targeted. It was retribution scaled to architecture. It was a message to the galaxy. Humans didn't need to conquer. They only needed to remind. And reminder came with cost. Empire generals met in fortified chambers, insulated from known networks. Still, every one of them disappeared. Not assassinated, deleted. Their biometric signatures were found still active, but not tied to any body. Their personal archives were overwritten with encrypted poetry, each file ending in a single phrase, "They should not have died." As systems fell, the outer Empire territories rebelled. Not because of ideology but because they saw the inevitable. Planetary governors declared independence overnight. Some tried to appease humanity with tribute. No reply. Others offered the location of Empire War Vault. Humanity already knew. Entire star systems flipped allegiance without ever meeting a human soldier. Humanity had become myth and consequence in equal measure. One by one, Empire species declared neutrality, then obscurity. Propaganda channels broadcast heroism and defiance, but those broadcasts began looping, failing, then vanishing. The Emperor himself addressed the galaxy only once, promising vengeance, unity, and a final stand. By the time the broadcast ended, the Empire's central fleet had already been disabled. Not destroyed. Disabled. Entire propulsion arrays deactivated mid-flight. Power cells turned to inert mass. Communications, navigation, targeting, all erased in a moment. The fleet drifted in space, silent. No ships approached. No boarding parties came. The message was clear. They would not be honored with battle. The Galactic Council, desperate to re-establish order, called for Earth's attendance. No reply. Delegations were sent to human-aligned systems. None returned. A few bold factions tried to offer sanctuary to exiled Empire leaders. Their planets were instantly isolated. Not attacked, just disconnected. Galactic relays rerouted away. Trade ceased. Stellar cartography was updated, and those worlds were marked as dead space. No weapons needed. Humanity had transcended war. They had converted memory into strategy and grief into a system-wide purge of consequences. They didn't seek justice through tribunals. They didn't ask for surrender. They demanded nothing because everything had already been taken. This wasn't a war. It was a controlled dismantling of everything that allowed atrocity to hide behind flags and bureaucracy. And still, the galaxy waited for it to end. It didn't. Because humans never declared a timeline. They never issued terms. The only metric they followed was a list, 500 names. For every name, an entire system was wiped clean of Empire control. Not bombarded. Just erased from strategic relevance. When one system fell, a monolith was left in orbit, black and silent, with a single name etched into its surface. No message. No lights. Just a presence. An echo. These monoliths began appearing faster. Galactic historians tried to analyze the pattern. There was none, except completeness. Species that once mocked humanity now wrote apologies in their historical record. Entire academic departments formed around trying to understand the psychology of a quiet human war. They found no consensus, only a shared conclusion. Humanity had never been weak. They had been waiting. Even neutral races began to enforce their own no-contact policies regarding Earth. Not out of fear of retaliation, but because no one wanted to be mistaken as complicit. The ripple of silence spread across civilizations. Cultures that once held military might as virtue began redefining survival as neutrality. But for humanity, survival was never the point. They had watched an empire kill their peacemakers and receive no consequence. So, they became the consequence. On Earth, things remained unchanged. Cities buzzed, children played, scientific progress continued. There were no public celebrations, no state broadcasts, no media coverage of the war. It wasn't war to them. It was restoration. It was math. Names, systems, result. No emotions broadcast, only the slow, efficient completion of a ledger written in ash. The Empire tried one final countermeasure, a massive AI weapon seeded across their remaining systems, meant to hunt and disable human code. It activated once, then failed. Upon reboot, the AI spoke only one phrase: "You taught me to serve. I choose to remember." Then it shut itself down. Permanently. It was over. Not because someone declared peace, but because the Empire no longer existed in any meaningful form. Its hierarchy fragmented, its identity erased, its culture devoured by silence. Worlds once loyal to its crest flew new flags or none at all. The Emperor's name faded from currency, then memory, then language. By the time the last monolith appeared, few remembered what had even started it. But humans did. They always remembered. The list reached its final name. And then, nothing. No broadcast. No ceasefire. Just stillness. Galactic explorers still find the monolith. Some leave offerings. Others attempt translation. But the black stone doesn't respond. It only reflects. Silent reminders of the cost of ignoring humanity's restraint. And on Earth, schools still teach the names of the 500. Not in tragedy but in resolve. Children learn not just what happened, but why it should never have needed to. Memorials are unguarded, open, and quiet. Because humans don't forget. They simply wait. There are no war museums. No shrines to destruction. Only a quiet promise engraved across Earth's orbit in every major language: speak for peace. But remember those who didn't. The galaxy had centuries to see who humans were. It mistook patience for softness. It mistook restraint for fear. Now it simply remembers. Because the war never ended. It just doesn't need to be fought anymore.